Most people who get a German Shepherd do it because of what they see. The confidence, the intelligence, the loyalty that almost looks cinematic. What they don't see, until they're living with one, is everything that comes underneath that. And that gap between expectation and reality is exactly why so many German Shepherds end up in shelters before their second birthday. This video isn't a breed promotion. It's an honest conversation about what German Shepherds actually are, what they actually need, and why they're one of the most misunderstood dogs on the planet. Let's start with something that surprises almost every first-time Shepherd owner. This breed doesn't just want your companionship. It needs your engagement. There's a difference. A Labrador can be content with your presence. A German Shepherd needs your participation. These dogs were developed over generations to work alongside a human handler, reading cues, solving problems, making decisions under pressure. That cognitive wiring doesn't disappear because they're living in a suburban home now. It's still running, all the time, looking for an outlet. When that outlet isn't provided, you don't get a calm dog. You get a dog that invents its own job, and the jobs they invent are rarely ones you'd approve of. Excessive barking, destructive chewing, fence running, anxiety-driven pacing. These aren't personality flaws. They're symptoms of a working mind without work to do. Here's what most people don't realize about German Shepherd intelligence. It's not just about how quickly they learn commands. It's about how deeply they observe. A Shepherd will study your patterns, your moods, your routines, long before you ever notice they're doing it. They learn what time you usually leave the house. They notice when your body language shifts before an argument. They pick up on inconsistencies in your behavior that even people around you miss. That level of perception is remarkable, and it also means they're incredibly sensitive to instability. A chaotic or emotionally unpredictable household doesn't just stress a German Shepherd. It can fundamentally affect how they respond to the world outside your front door. Now let's talk about the loyalty, because it's real. But it comes with a layer that rarely gets discussed. German Shepherds bond deeply, often to one person more than others, and that bond creates something behaviorists call selective trust. They love their family, but strangers? That's a different calculation. A well-socialized Shepherd isn't unfriendly. They're measured. They watch, they assess, and they decide. That instinct is part of what makes them exceptional working dogs and reliable protectors. But without early, consistent, and varied socialization, that healthy caution can tip into suspicion, then reactivity, then a dog that's genuinely difficult to manage in public spaces. The socialization window, roughly 8 to 16 weeks, is not a suggestion. It's biology. During that period, the experience as a Shepherd puppy has literally shaped the neural pathways that determine how they process novelty for the rest of their life. Puppies exposed to different people, environments, sounds, textures, and animals during that window build confidence as a default. Puppies that aren't can spend years operating from a place of low-level anxiety, even in perfectly safe situations. No amount of training later fully compensates for what wasn't built during those early weeks. One of the most common mistakes new Shepherd owners make is confusing obedience with relationship. They put the dog through a basic training course. The dog learns sit, stay, and come, and the owner assumes the hard part is done. It isn't. Obedience is a skill set. Relationship is the foundation that makes everything else possible. A German Shepherd that sits on command but doesn't trust you will fall apart the moment the environment gets stressful. A loud crowd, an unfamiliar dog, a chaotic situation. The dog that holds its behavior under pressure is the one whose owner invested in trust, not just technique. Building that trust isn't complicated, but it does require consistency. German Shepherds thrive on predictable structure, not rigid military schedules, but a clear sense of what's expected, what's allowed, and what the rules are every single day. They don't handle moving goalposts well. If jumping on the couch is fine sometimes, and corrected other times, the ambiguity creates low-grade stress. They're always trying to figure out where the line is. Define it clearly, hold it consistently, and you'll see a visibly more relaxed dog within weeks. Let's talk about exercise, because the advice you usually hear, 2 hours a day, misses the point entirely. Physical exercise matters, but for a German Shepherd, mental exercise is equally important and often more tiring. A dog that runs 5 miles might still be restless at home. A dog that spends 20 minutes on focused scent work or problem solving will often settle for hours afterward. The brain is the engine of this breed. Feed it. Nose work, tracking games, hide and seek with objects, structured training sessions, learning new commands. These aren't extras. They're necessities. Something worth addressing directly: aggression. German Shepherds are frequently labeled as aggressive dogs, and that reputation is both overstated and oversimplified. True, unprovoked aggression is not a natural trait of a well-bred, well-raised shepherd. What people often mistake for aggression is fear-based reactivity, which is a completely different thing. A reactive shepherd isn't trying to dominate or attack, it's trying to create distance from something it perceives as threatening. The response looks similar from the outside, but the cause and the solution are entirely different. Misidentifying reactivity as aggression leads owners towards suppression-based training that addresses the behavior without touching the underlying emotion, and that almost always makes things worse over time. There's also the health conversation, which prospective owners deserve to hear honestly. German Shepherds are genetically predisposed to hip and elbow dysplasia. It's one of the most documented breed-specific health concerns in veterinary medicine. Degenerative myelopathy, a progressive neurological condition, also appears in the breed at a higher rate than average. Bloat, or gastric dilatation volvulus, is a life-threatening emergency that large, deep-chested breeds like Shepherds are more vulnerable to. None of this means your dog will develop these conditions, but it means health testing in breeding lines matters. Pet insurance is worth serious consideration, and annual vet visits aren't optional. The average lifespan of a German Shepherd is 9 to 13 years. Working lines, bred for function over form, tend to have fewer structural issues than show lines, where exaggerated rear angulation has become a legitimate welfare concern in recent decades. If you're buying a puppy, ask questions about the parent's health clearances. If you're adopting, work with a vet to establish a baseline early. Here's the truth that ties all of this together. The German Shepherd is not a beginner's dog, in the sense that it's easy to own. It's a dog that will meet you exactly at the level of effort you bring. Put in the time, the structure, the engagement, and the relationship, and what you get back is something that's genuinely hard to describe to someone who's never experienced it. A dog that reads your intentions before you've finished the thought. A dog that positions itself between you and anything uncertain. Not because it was trained to, but because it decided you were worth protecting. A dog that works with you in a way that feels less like ownership and more like partnership. But that dog doesn't arrive ready-made. You build it together, over time. If this gave you a more honest picture of what German Shepherds actually are, drop a comment below. Tell me what surprised you most, Or share what your own shepherd has taught you. Subscribe if you want more content that goes this deep on working breeds and real dog behavior. And share this with someone who's thinking about getting a shepherd. It might be the most useful thing they watch before making that decision.